Class this evening. Today we'll begin chapter 12, the title of which is Birth of Emperor Parikshit. But before that, I will go ahead and recite Mangalacharan prayer to invoke the auspicious. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Surmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistham Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Chaitanya Namne Gauratu Se Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna again everybody, and we welcome you for our Shrimad Bhagwatam class today. We will begin chapter 12, the title of which is Birth of Emperor Parikshit. Emperor means king, King Parikshit. So the previous chapters that we have learned, 7 through 11, they describe Krishna's wonderful pastimes with his devotees and the Pandavas' great love for Krishna. Between the Pandava and Krishna, the reciprocation between them was so enlivening and so pleasing. Arjun was very advanced spiritually. He was able to directly associate with Krishna simply by remembering his instructions. So the goal of human life is to attain such an exalted level of consciousness. Shrimad Bhagwatam teaches us how to attain this through the dealings of Pandavas with Krishna. And we have learned that from chapter 7 to 11. Now in this chapter, in the beginning, Saunakarusi, who is the head of 88,000 sages assembled in the forest of Naimisharanya, he is inquiring, Saunak Rishi is inquiring about Maharaj Parikshit. What is he inquiring about Parikshit? We will see, he's saying that they have asked about Maharaj Parikshit birth earlier also in chapter 4. But meanwhile, they have narrated some other pastimes, and which are begin with, we say, the release of Brahmastra by son of Drona. Before that, he killed the 5 sons of Draupadi. Then how Arjuna punished the the Aswathama, the son of Dronacharya. Then we learn about Queen Kunti's prayer in chapter 8. And then in chapter 9, the Pandavas visit to place where Bhismadev was lying, and his prayers to Lord Krishna. And then Lord's departure for Dwarka were discussed, and also Lord Krishna's arrival at Dwarka and residing with his 16,108 queens also discussed. So now the sages at Naimisaranya asking, especially the head of all Rishis is Savanaka, he's saying that, my dear Sutta Goswami, Uttra's womb, you can see it here, this picture. He says Uttra's womb was completely spoiled by that horrible Brahmastra weapon, but Lord Krishna saved baby Parikshit. I wonder, how was he born in that womb? And how did he die? And where did he go after he died? So this is the inquiry which was made earlier also, as it is mentioned here in chapter 4. But meanwhile, there are description of some pastimes that which I have already said. So, and sages were really absorbed in hearing such descriptions. But now they wanted to know more about Maharaj Parikshit, birth and other activities. So the sages also wanted to know about Maharaj Parikshit's death, because his death was glorious. Why the Parikshit Maharaj death was glorious? So the age of Kali had begun when Parikshit became the king of the Hastinapur. Unfortunately, he was cursed by a Brahman boy, so he had to prepare himself for death within 7 days. Maharaj Parikshit is especially famous as one who is protected by Vishnu, and when he was unduly cursed by a Brahman's son, he could have invoked the mercy of the Lord to save him, but he did not want to, because he was a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. So he accepted the curse and he prepared himself to meet death very cheerfully and very properly. He was fortunate that he got at least 7 days to prepare himself for the death. Therefore, he properly utilized the time in the association of Sukdev Goswami and heard Shrimad Bhagwatam and went to Golok Vrindavan Dham. This is why his death was glorious. Thus, in the last 7 days of his life, Maharaj Parikshit heard transcendental knowledge about the soul from Sukdev Goswami. Now, what is the effect of such bona fide hearing and chanting of Shrimad Bhagwatam. So we can see here that Parikshit Maharaj heard Shrimad Bhagwatam. Sukdev Goswami recited, means chanted, means kirtan. It is also, kirtan is also called reciting Shrimad Bhagwatam. So they both equally shared and both of them were benefited. So here hearing and chanting is so important. In Shrimad Bhagwatam, in Canto 7, Prahlad Maharaj teaches his classmates. When teacher is not there, sometimes Prahlad takes the position of a teacher. And he was teaching, what is he was teaching? Saravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. He was teaching them these 9 processes of devotional service to Krishna, which is mentioned there in the Shrimad Bhagwatam there. So this, each process, for example, Sravanam. Sravanam means hearing. And that hearing is perfected by Parikshit Maharaj. Second is Kirtanam. Kirtanam is also doing Kirtan, but also it means speaking. Means Sukdev Goswami is here speaking. So he perfected, Sukdev Goswami is the Acharya of Kirtanam. And Parikshit Maharaj is the Acharya of Sravanam. Means they both perfected their life, like Parikshit Maharaj by hearing and Sukdev Goswami by reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Vishnu Smaranam means remembering Vishnu always. That is Prahlad Maharaj. And Pad Sevanam means serving the lotus feet of the Lord. That is Sri Lakshmi Devi. You may have seen some pictures where Vishnu lies on the bed of serpent and Lakshmi Devi massaging his feet. So that is Pad Sevanam. Then Archanam. Archanam means worshipping, deity worship. So Pruthu Maharaj is one character in Srimad Bhagavatam. He is the one who has perfected that process of Archanam. Then Vandanam is Akrura. Akrura is uncle of Krishna. He perfected by this process, which is called Vandanam, means offering prayers. And then Dasyam. Dasyam means being a servant. And Hanuman was the servant of Lord Ram. And he perfected his life by serving Lord Ram. So that is Dasyam. Dasyam means being a servant. And then Sakhyam means being a friend. And Arjun was the friend of Krishna. And then Atma Nivedanam. Atma Nivedanam means surrendering everything, including himself. And that is the example of Bali Maharaj described in Srimad Bhagwatam. When Vamandev came to ask from him 3 steps of land, so it was kind of Lord Vishnu who played a trick on Bali, because Vaman is very small boy Roop, Swarup. And Bali Maharaj was saying that, 3 steps of this little boy, how much land that would be, So he was telling Vamandev that you can ask anything, but Vamandev says, no, I will be satisfied only 3 steps of land. But when he actually promised to give the 3 steps of land, then Vamandev expanded himself, a huge form. And in the 2 steps, he measured everything, material as well as spiritual, So the 3rd step, where to put? So at that time, Bali Maharaj told Vishnu that, you can put your 3rd step on my head. So that is called Atma Nivedanam, that kind of surrendering level that Bali Maharaj has. So he has perfected that process. So these 9 processes, whoever perform these 9 processes, or even one of them, he will definitely get a benefit of Krishna consciousness. Then in next few verses, Sutta Goswami describes Maharaj Yudhishthir's exemplary rule, means how he ruled the kingdom of Hastinapur. Because after the war, the kingdom belongs to him, and how he ruled the kingdom, that description is given here. Yudhishthir Maharaj was an ideal king. He was very, very expert in ruling the kingdom. He was pure devotee of the Lord. He was serving the Lord continuously. And so he had no personal ambition, means desire on his own. He doesn't want to enjoy himself, but he wants to serve Lord. At the same time, he wants to serve the citizens of Hastinapur also. And he was free from all sorts of sense gratifications, means he do not want to enjoy himself. Seeing now, since this King Yudhishthir was a representative of the Lord, he maintained and protected all living beings. There are 6 types of living being described in the Shastra. So in this material world, we find aquatics. Aquatics means one type of living being which lives in water, like fish, crocodile, like that. Then there are plants and trees. They are also living entity, which doesn't move. And the reptiles is the 3rd category, which is insects, snakes, those kind of category. Then the birds, there are different kinds of birds that you see flying in the sky. So that is the 4th category. And then animals, different kinds of animals, horses, donkey, buffalo, cow, elephant, lion, tiger, dog, cat, so many animals, right? So these are the 5th category of living being. And then final, human being, 6th category. So every one of them is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And Yudhishthir wanted everyone under his administration, especially human beings who have better developed consciousness. Now, we know that out of all these 6 types of bodies, human body has more developed consciousness. Our consciousness is more developed than the animal and rest of them. So other species have a lower consciousness, and human body has a higher consciousness. So it will be easy for human to become a devotee of Lord Krishna if we can use our higher consciousness to develop Krishna consciousness. So here Yudhishthira Maharaj wanted everyone to become free from material miseries. Maharaj Yudhishthir, name and fame reached. You can see here how Maharaj Yudhishthir, Draupadi and his brothers, Emperor Yudhishthir administered generously to everyone during his reign. He was exactly like his father. He had no personal ambition and was freed from all sorts of sense gratification because of his continuous service unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Then this is the thing that we are discussing now, that Maharaj Yudhishthir's name and fame reach the higher planets because of his good administration, worldly possession, glorious wife that he has, Draupadi, and strength of his brother Arjun and Bhim. So which is given here, news even reach the celestial planets about Maharaj Yudhishthir's worldly possession, the sacrifices by which he would attain a better destination. His queen, his stalwart brothers, his extensive land, his sovereignty over the planet Earth, his fame, etc. So, Suta Goswami was telling to all the sages assembled there, "O Brahmanas, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that the denizens of heaven aspired for it. But because he was absorbed in the service of the Lord, nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service." So that was the nature of Yudhishthira Maharaj. There are higher planets scattered all over the sky, both material and spiritual. A person can go there by his activities in the present life and not by mechanical means. Now, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that those who worship demigod, okay, they will go to heavenly planet. And those who worship the ancestor, they go to ancestors. And those who worship ghost or spirit, they will take birth among them. And those who worship Krishna will go to Krishna Loka. So simple thing. So what we do in this life, depending on that, we can go to particular planet. In modern day, people are trying to go to moon planet, which is really not the way to go. Here it is said that the scientists and engineers have discovered vehicles to travel over a few thousand miles in outer space will not be allowed entrance. That is not the way to reach the better planet. One must qualify himself to enter into such planet by sacrifice and service. Those who are sinful will be degraded into animal or lower life to suffer more and more into material existence. So what it boils down to is that we cannot reach this higher planet except we do some sacrifice and service. That is the way to go there, not by mechanical means, not by rockets or anything like that. Okay. So the next one here will describe about his birth. We'll do that next. But Maharaj Yudhishthir's opulence was so great that the heavenly denizens desired them, but he was unattached to them because he was absorbed in the service of the Lord, like Ambrish Maharaj. So Ambrish Maharaj is another character described in Shrimad Bhagwatam. He was the king of the entire world, but considered his opulence temporarily. He was unattached to this opulence. He engaged his senses and mind in the service of the Lord. Now, there is one brief story regarding Ambrish Maharaj, how he was dear to Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, and how he was saved from the wrath of Durvasa Muni. So I will briefly discuss about that story. One time, Maharaj Ambrish was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan, observing the vow of Dwadasi, like today is Dwadasi, right? Yesterday was Ekadasi. So Maharaj Ambrish was observing the vow of Dwadasi. On Dwadasi, which is day after Ekadasi, when he was about to break his Ekadasi fast, the great mystic yogi Durvasa appeared in his house and became his guest. King Ambrish respectfully received Durvasa Muni And Durvasa Muni, after accepting his invitation to eat there, went to bathe in the Yamuna river at noontime. Now, because he was absorbed in Samadhi, he did not come back very soon. So Maharaj Ambrish, uh, upon seeing that the time to break the fast was passing, because there is a particular time you have to break your fast. If you are fasting for Ekadasi, next day Dwadasi, there is a particular time in which you have to break the fast. Otherwise, you will not get the effect of Ekadasi. So what he did, he drank a little water in accordance with the advice of learned Brahmanas, just to observe the formality of breaking the fast. By mystic power, Durvasa Muni could understand this and he understood what happened, and he was very angry. When he returned, he began to chastise Maharaj Ambrish, but he was not satisfied. And finally, he created from his hair a demon appearing like the fire of death. Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is always the protector of his devotee. And to protect Ambrish Maharaj, he sent his disc, that Sudarshan Chakra, which immediately vanquished the fiery demon and then pursued Dwarka. No, that demon was running away. So the Sudarshan Chakra ran behind Durvasa. So he was envious of Maharaj Ambrish. Durvasa fled to Brahmaloka, Sivaloka, and all of the higher planet, but he could not protect himself from the wrath of Sudarshan Chakra. Finally, he went to the spiritual world and surrendered to Lord Narayan. But Lord Narayan could not excuse a person who had offended a Vaishnava. Who is that Vaishnava? Ambrish Maharaj. To be excused from such an offense, one must submit to the Vaishnava from Vaishnava whom he has offended. There is no other way to be excused. Thus, Lord Narayan advised Durvasa to return to Maharaj Ambrish and beg his pardon. So you can see the potency of a pure devotee here and how Lord Krishna protects his devotees. So here, Parikshit, King Parikshit, here we can see the Maharaj Yudhishthir also was unattached to the kingdom, but he was absorbed in the service of the Lord like Ambrish Maharaj. So that comparison is given here that Yudhishthir Maharaj was also equally absorbed like Ambrish Maharaj. Ambrish Maharaj actually was serving the Lord with all his senses. You know, he was using his legs to go to the temple. He was using his hands to clean the temple. He was using his eyes to see the deity. He was using his ears to hear the Krishna Katha. He was using his tongue to taste the prasadam, like that. So in each and every way, all the senses he was engaging in the Krishna service. Now we will learn about Lord Krishna protects child Parikshit in the womb. So you can see here, O son of Bhrigu, the Sutta Goswami addresses Saunak as a son of Bhrigu because Saunak belongs to Bhrigu dynasty. So when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother, Uttara, and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra, which is thrown by Aswathama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. So the Lord was only thumb high. See the description of the Lord, that in the womb, the space is limited, right? So the Lord became also smaller, like a thumb. You can see your thumb size. He was like thumb size high, but he was all transcendental. He had a very beautiful blackish, infallible body, and he wore a dress of lightning yellow and a helmet of blazing gold. Thus, he was seen by the child. You can see that how Parikshit Maharaj, while in the womb of mother, saw Krishna, who was a thumb high. So in that limited space, he has to be in proportionate size. So we can see here, when the child Parikshit was suffering from the heat of the Brahmastra in the womb of his mother Uttara, he saw the Supreme Lord because he was a pure devotee of the Lord. Now, the Supreme Lord was only thumb high, as I described, and he was very beautiful. He wore a dress of lightning yellow and a helmet of blazing gold. The Lord had 4 hands. He was earrings of gold and eyes blood red with anger as he wandered his club constantly encircled with like a shooting star. So here we can see how he was busy. Thus the Lord is all-pervading by his inconceivable potency, entered the womb of Uttara to save his beloved Parikshit. So the Lord was thus engaged in vanquishing the radiation of the Brahmastra, because that Brahmastra is a very hot radiation was coming out. Just as the sun evaporates to drop of dew, he was observed by the child who thought about who he was. So while thus being observed by the child, the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, the super soul of everyone, and the protector of the righteous who stretches in all directions and who is unlimited by time and space, disappeared at once. Also, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord assured everyone that his devotees are never to be killed. No one can kill a devotee of the Lord because he is protected by the Lord, and no one can save a person whom the Lord desires to kill. Lord is always powerful, and therefore he can both save and kill as he likes. He became visible to his devotee Parikshit even in that awkward position, in a shape just suitable for his vision. The Lord can become bigger than thousands of universes and can become smaller than an atom at the same time. It is like I describe about that Vaman and Bali Maharaj. Vaman was a small boy, but then he actually, starting measuring his step, he expanded himself to a big size like that. So this is the pastimes of Lord. Now Lord accepts the form of Archa Vigra, which is worshipable deity, just to accept service from his different incapable devotee. So here another example is given that just as to give a darshan to Parikshit in the womb, he assumed small size. Similarly, in the temple, you see the deities are there. So he comes in a Archa Vigra form. Now that could be material like marble, stone, wood, whatever that is, but he comes into that form so that devotees who are in this material world can easily approach the Lord. Although he is not conceivable by material senses, the Archa Vigra in temple is therefore an all spiritual form of the Lord to be perceived by the material devotees. Why? Because those deities made by material element, uh, they are authorized deities, means they are installed by the qualified acharyas, and that is why they are considered spiritual. See, we can see the Lord was vanquishing the radiation of the Brahmastra. Just as the sun evaporates a drop of dew, Parikshit wondered who he was. So here another comparison is given, that how Lord was vanquishing that uh, heat, just like when sun comes, and if there is a dew in the morning, small drop is evaporated by sun heat. Similarly, uh, Lord Krishna was also diminishing the effect of heat from that Brahmastra. Now, there is regarding the ceremonies during Parikshit Maharaj birth. You can see that uh, King Yudhishthir, who was very satisfied with the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, had the purificatory process of birth performed. Learned Brahmanas headed by Dhaumya and Krupacharya recited auspicious hymns. So Dhaumya and Krupacharya came there to guide the other Brahmanas. And upon the birth of a son, the king, who knew how, where, and when charity should be given, gave gold, land, village, elephant, horses, and good food grains to the Brahmanas. So we'll talk about his birth ceremony here. So when all good signs of the zodiac gradually evolve, Parikshit took birth. So it is said that at the time of birth, there is a particular arrangement of stars and planetary system which determines the quality of future of a child. And so every time, anytime one takes birth, there is a particular position of planetary system. And depending on that, the child's future can be predicted. So every living being is controlled by the laws of nature at every minute, just as a citizen is controlled by the influence of the state laws. Now, according to Bhagavad Gita, every action of life produces another reaction, which is binding upon us. Our actions are judged Our actions are judged by the higher authorities, the agents of Lord, and thus we are given bodies according to our activities. So every part of our body is influenced by the respective star, and a living being obtains his working body to fulfill his terms of imprisonment by the manipulation of such astronomical influence. Therefore, a man's destiny is determined by the birth time constellation of stars, and a factual horoscope is made by a learned astrologer. So, the most auspicious constellation of stars takes place during the appearance of Lord in this material world. Similarly, when some devotee born, they also get a auspicious time. Maharaj Pariksit was a great devotee of the Lord. Thus, he cannot take his birth at an inauspicious moment. Thus, he took the birth just to be known as the great hero of Shrimad Bhagwatam. The arrangement is made according to the good or bad deeds of the living being. So here, because Parikshit was pure devotee, there was a good arrangement. So now King Yudhishthir was very happy and satisfied with the birth of Maharaj Parikshit, he called for learned Brahmanas. The Brahmanas came here, and like Dhaumya, Krupacharya, they performed purificatory process by chanting auspicious mantra. And after the birth of a child, the first purificatory process called Jat Karma, this was performed duly by Maharaj Yudhishthir with the help of good learned Brahmanas under the direction of Dhaumya Muni and Krupacharya. Now, there is some history of Krupacharya. I'll tell you briefly. Krupacharya is the son of Sri Saradvan and Janpadi, born in dynasty of Gautam. His sister name was Kripi, and they were born twins. One time, Maharaj Santanu, while hunting in the jungle, picked up the children and brought them up to the Brahminical status by the proper purificatory process. So Krupacharya later became a great general like Dronacharya, and his sister Krupi was married to Dronacharya. So Krupacharya took part in the battle of Kurukshetra and joined the party of Duryodhana. But when Pandavas were sent to the forest after being defeated in the gambling match with Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra entrusted Pandavas to Krupacharya for guidance. So after the end of the battle of Krupacharya, again became a member of the royal assembly, and he was called during the birth of Maharaj Parikshit for recitation of mantras. And auspicious Vedic mantras he recited. Now, Maharaj Yudhishthir, while quitting the palace for his great departure to the Himalayas, entrusted Krupacharya with Maharaj Parikshit as his disciple. We will learn in the chapters to come where Yudhishthir Maharaj is retiring. At that time, before he go, he told to Krupacharya that accept this Parikshit Maharaj as your disciple. So on this occasion of birth of Parikshit, Yudhishthir knew, as it is mentioned here, how and where and when charity should be given. He donated land and village and elephant and all the food grains and things like that. So on the auspicious occasion, like birth, marriage, etc., wealth is distributed to the Brahmanas because the Brahmana give the highest quality of service in regard to the prime necessity of humankind. They don't have to earn for their maintenance. They would simply devote themselves to the well-being of the entire society. And that was before. Nowadays, there were no expert or qualified brahmanas we can find. So this way, the Jat Karma Sanskar, which means purificatory process, was performed by Yudhishthir Maharaj when child is separated from the mother by cutting a navel pipe called umbilical cord. Then the learned brahmanas who came to perform the ceremony were very satisfied also, and they received a lot of charities. The king Yudhishthir was very happy. They glorified, all the brahmanas glorified King Yudhishthir. They blessed the child and informed him that his son was certainly in the line of descendant from the Purus. So now this Brahmana will foretell about the future of the child, which we will learn tomorrow. So I'll stop here. and take any questions and comments. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much. You are giving a very wonderful class. So I request to every participant, if they have any questions, any comments, so please raise your hand. So we will take one by one. Thank you. Is anybody have any questions, comments? Please raise your hands. So we will take one by one. Hare Krishna. Might be Prabhuji, they have no more questions.
Okay.
So if you want to say anything, so Prabhu, you can continue.
Okay. So basically, we have finished. Tomorrow we'll finish chapter 12. Then next week we will go to chapter 13, where we will see about the episode of Dhritarashtra, who is leaving his body. And then in 14th chapter, Lord Krishna will also depart from this earthly planet. And in chapter 15, Pandavas will also go to Himalayas for their departure. Okay. Somebody's raising questions. Who's Suraj? You have a question?
Prabhu, here, Suraj is not raised his hand.
Oh, okay, because I saw his hand raising. Anyway, okay. So, yeah. So, even if you have a question, you can join early tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We'll discuss about, we will brief you about what we covered today, and then we'll continue on chapter 12 to finish it up regarding the birth of King Parikshit.
Yes, Prabhuji. So should we wind up our call?
Yes. If they don't have any questions, we should stop here.
Okay.
And let's see. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granthra Shrimad Bhagwatam ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Sindhubhya eva cha patitana bhavaneभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhu.